Hello, join us every Tuesday on the program Talking Peace, where we discuss on how to attain peaceful coexistence and tolerance in our society.
Talking Peace is a production of ZT Communications in partnership with Taraba State Broadcasting Service TSBS Jalingo.
For enquiries and advert placements, please call 0803 454 0469.
Talking Peace is the meeting point. Join us.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the program Talking Peace. Now, it is no longer news that the entire world is seeking generally for peaceful coexistence. And so, here on TSBS and our online platform, we have made it a point of duty on the program Talking Peace to discuss issues that will give and ensure we enjoy peaceful coexistence. Now, let's welcome on the program today one elder statesman who has been in the forefront of ensuring that we have a peaceful coexistence in Southern Taraba. And I'm talking about no other one than Chief David Sabo Kente. You're welcome on the program.
Thank you very much.
Well, many of your fans know you as DSK. Maybe you get to tell us more why this DSK slogan came in and is sweeping the entirety of the Southern Taraba and Taraba at large.
Yeah, DSK is just picking the first letters of my three names, D for David, S for Sabo, and K for Kente. I made out the DSK from the full name. And as you all know, and as you said, it's a very popular name in Southern Taraba and in Taraba at large. I'm currently struggling to make the name popular in Nigeria too.
Wow, that's great. Meaning, I was right to say you are an elder statesman. And so, when we talk peace, we can't seek the ways we can enjoy peaceful coexistence better or from others than people like you. Now, what do you make of the current spate of crisis around us?
Yeah, thank you again. I quite agree with you. We have a lot of turbulence, not only in Taraba, I'm sure you're aware, not only in Southern Taraba. We have turbulence across the country. We have the Boko Haram crisis in the northeast. We have the Tip-Jukun crisis in Southern Taraba. We have the Muye Fulani crisis in Northern Taraba. We have the Mambila Fulani crisis on the Mambila Plateau, and several other crises across Taraba. I want to be specific about Taraba. Crisis does not just come into existence. Crisis come into existence because somebody feels shortchanged or cheated or being treated unfairly. Therefore, for me, one of the ways we can resolve crisis is try and be fair to ourselves. It's lack of fairness that has created most of the crisis you are seeing. If you say you are a farmer and you have a farmland, you also have to make provision for the cattle rearers to have their way, maybe a little part of where they can also have their way. If you do that, you wouldn't have crisis. For the Jukun Chief crisis, of course, you know, we are all one. If you are producing and you don't want your neighbor to produce, or you discriminate against your neighbor, of course, you are treating him unfairly, and he will react. That's why we're having the crisis. I'm sure you're also aware of the Jukun Kutep crisis that lasted more than 10 years. It's as a result of unfair treatment to each other. The Mambila Fulani crisis on the Mambila Plateau is also a product of unfairness, of unfair treatment to ourselves. So one of the ways that we can actually handle and deal with crisis in such circumstance is to be fair to ourselves. Once we are not fair to ourselves, we'll continue to have these issues coming up.
You keep mentioning fair and fair and fair. That's subjective. How do we measure who is fair and at what extent the fairness is, commensurate to be able to? Because the one-term havoc this crisis cause or non-peaceful coexistence cause sometimes is not even determined by the person who stirred it up after all, because it affects everybody if there is an outbreak of lawlessness. So how do we measure this fairness to be able to accommodate each other and to mitigate some of the crises we witness already?
Yeah, let me tell you the truth. From my little experience in life, I am 55, 56 years old. I'll tell you that I have seen a lot of things happen when it comes to fairness. I'll give you an example. Have your children, you have your kids, and you don't treat them fairly, I assure you are creating crisis between them. And with time there will be crisis. In a village, if the village head tries to give favor, do favor to some people more than the others, of course with time it will escalate to crisis. In the same manner, if the government decides not to treat its citizens equally or fair, we're not saying equality, fairness, you are hungry, you should be given food. Not that you are hungry, you are not giving food. Instead, the money is given to your neighbor to go and buy clothes. Those are how you measure unfair treatment. I put it to you again and again that crises all over the world are products of unfair treatment to ourselves. Be it political, be it in economic terms, be it in service delivery, be it in even as a philanthropist right now. I told you about the rice I distributed, 200 bags to widows. The next time I want to distribute, I will target only orphans. And I remember some few months ago we distributed to everybody. All over Taraba, NEDC gave us food, which we distributed to everybody. This time around, I've targeted widows. The next one, if I go for orphans, the orphans will be happy with me. But if I dare make any attempt to go for the widows again, the orphans will start rearing their heads. So I must say it again and again and again that crises are outcomes of unfairness. When you don't try to treat people fairly, over a period of time, it develops into crisis. Let me give you an example. We grew up with the Fulanis in my village. I come from a royal family, and therefore we had a lot of Fulanis that used to come to our house. Each time it was time for harvest, we would harvest our crops, and once the crops are harvested, I remember my dad used to send us to the Ardo to tell him we finished harvesting the rice so they can go and
graze on the farm,
to graze on the shrubs that are left. And then they also pay us for grazing. And they don't only graze and pay us, we encourage them to graze because the fecal materials from the cows
fertilizer
dung become fertilizer at the end of the day. The same thing for our sorghum farms, millet farms, maize farms, and stuff like that. Now, these days, because of perception and because of anger as a result of unfair treatment by quite a lot of people around, there's an impression that the Fulanis have an impression, and the farmers also have their own impression. The herdsmen, let me use the herdsmen, they have their impression And the farmers also have the impression. The same thing with the Tiv Jukun crisis. I grew up in the midst of the Tiv people. They are sometimes highly peaceful people. The Jukuns are also very peaceful people. But once you start having unfair treatment, somebody is farming here. Yes, you gave him the farm. Next year he wants to farm, you are telling him not to farm again. He develops the impression that you don't like him, and he goes to your neighbor, and your neighbor gives him a piece of land. You now start telling your neighbor about you that you have denied him, and crisis starts bringing up from that day. So I must be honest with you, crises are outcomes of unfair treatment. Unfair treatment, I keep repeating, unfair treatment to ourselves. Once we treat ourselves fairly, I assure you we'll have less crisis in our communities. That is at the local level. At the government level also, the political level. When governance is about distributing scarce resources. When you distribute and you try to not to be fair to people, you try to exempt some people from the distribution, of course they will react. And over a period of time it becomes crisis. That's why I kept emphasizing fairness, equity and fair play in everything we do. So once we treat ourselves fairly, all these crises you are seeing will be a thing of the past. We have enough
to go around.
We have enough to go around.
All right, hearing it from an elder statesman like you, I think it will be encouraging, because I think for us, the youth, we are a little bit less patient. You just explained how you lived with your neighbors in the past. How do we return to that kind of peaceful coexistence where the herder knows that he should pay some royalty to the farmer to graze on his farm after he has harvested the first crop, leaving some for him to graze with it for his animal, and then of course the farmer also wanting to leave some for the farmer, or even invite him to come and graze, like you explained what you used to do as a child. How do we go back to those good old days?
One of the problems we have is population explosion.
Okay.
In those days, the farmer does not need too much land. He was contented with whatever quantity of land he has. And therefore, he allows the grazers, the herdsmen, to graze maybe in some parts. And that was peaceful coexistence. But these days, the herdsmen also have a feeling that, they have taken bulk of the land, don't have more land again, so let me invite my brothers from other places. So they've gone out there to invite their brothers to come with more cattle. And therefore we have this problem of the land being overstretched in terms of demand. But like I earlier said, there's actually enough to go around. It's a matter of give and take.
Okay.
Once we work out a give and take strategy, and you know that this is for this, and that what is good for the goods, good for the country. All these conflicts would be a thing of the past. We may not really not go back to how rosy it was in the past, but with some amendments in the way we live, I assure you we could still have relative peace. More so, all over the world now, with advancement in technology, many systems have been discarded. The nomadic system is also no more feasible. It's archaic now. Again, we need to do a lot to be able to bring into existence the new technology of putting animals in an enclosure and feeding them with prepared herbs that are prepared. So once we put those things together, and the herders have enough food for their animals, I'm sure this crisis will not. We will be able to go back and have peace the way we used to. The land grab issue we're hearing It's very true.
Okay.
A lot of people want to grab lands. Even those who have the land want to expand their holdings, their household, their holdings. And therefore, there is a stress on the existing land. And because of insecurity, people do not want to go into the hinterland to even to farm. They want to farm within where they can access easily and stuff like that. So we may not really go back to the peace we used to enjoy, but I think if we make frantic efforts, we'll be able to have relative peace. What is it? It is the principle of give and take. I am trying to survive. I have adopted means to survive. And that somebody that is living near me also has to survive. Once you give and take, we would have relative peace.
Okay, well, some of this fair play and technological advancement you have talked about, they seem a little bit far away from us because it's going to take some time and, of course, capital, because there must be deliberate effort to bring these groups to even educate them to the fact that this will work, and then bring in those technologies that can work really. But in the meantime, I'm talking short term now, what would the security personnel's role be? Like, for instance, in Taraba, to ensure peaceful coexistence within hamlets and communities where these conflicts arise.
Do you want me to tell you the truth?
Sure, sir.
There is no battle that has been won with guns and weapons. Most battles are won on the round table discussion. For Taraba, Southern Taraba in particular, all we need to do is to go and sit down with ourselves and redesign how we want to live. You can see even the entire country, some people are feeling surcharged, and they're calling for Oduduwa State, they're calling for Biafra, we are calling for Middle Belt country. A lot of agitations are going. The best of options is to go and sit down. The Jugun crisis would have ended a long time ago if we had sat down with ourselves. The Mambila Fulani crisis in the Mambila Plateau did not last too long because they sat down and discussed amongst themselves. The Mumwe Fulani crisis and the Kona Fulani crisis in northern Taraba did not last long because the people genuinely sat down and discussed among themselves. The Tiv Jukun crisis has refused to go down because we have not been able to sit down with ourselves or amongst ourselves and tell ourselves the truth and work out how we can live together. That is why the crisis is lingering. Again, the Tiv Jukun crisis has a border issue. It cuts across two states, Benue and Taraba. We are having interference from either side. The people in Taraba are interfering in the affairs of the bordering villages in Benue, and the Benue community are also interfering in border situations, border issues in Taraba. That is why it's been overflowed. But like I said, if we agree to sit down and talk to ourselves genuinely, with a very open mind, we can resolve crisis.
I'm wondering, sorry to cut you in, but with the heat on ground now, especially with the Tiv Jukun crisis, for instance, what kind of formula will they take that will really make any meaning?
You know that the guns have not been able, the security operatives have not been able to do anything.
Sure.
They've had several meetings, they've deployed a lot of security men with a lot of arms, and it has not helped matters. Recently, let me tell you, where we're beginning to experience relative peace is because both sides have gone to sit down, even amongst themselves, to tell themselves the truth.
Informally.
Okay. These things we are doing will not help us. The two people did it to themselves, and the Jukun also did it to themselves. and suddenly you can see peace is returning.
And I wish it stays forever.
We wish, it's our wish that it should be forever, because if I tell you what has really affected us in that area, that's a major food production belt for the whole country. Because I come from
That's
there.
to tell the devastation
Exactly.
the crisis will cause.
You'll be amazed at the end of the day how much yam would cost, because that's the yam belt of Nigeria. There is no part of Nigeria that produces yam more than the Benue Taraba border. I mean, the bordering communities. And for quite a year plus, people have not been able to farm. So it has. In a nutshell, the security men have less to do. If we all put ourselves together, we will attain peace in no time, and it will be more lasting and better for us.
Wow. Well, that's more like a great solution, and seems very simple. But I hope those who are listening will really take this word seriously, especially those who really fan the embers of these wars that end up in real devastation, rendering people homeless, and most times the women and children, who are the most vulnerable persons, really pay their prices for this, some with their lives when they get killed in the crisis and then displaced. But could you give us a clear picture of what this kind of talk can look like for us to attain peaceful coexistence moving forward? Because it's going to seem now like we may have to resort to dry season farming for those areas that have water belts to be able to augment for food that you have just talked about, that may not be as available as it should be if the crisis was not, did not stay up, especially in the farming season. What formats do you propose that talk to be like?
Yeah, let me tell you the truth. I come from a small community, a border community. Kente specifically is where I come from. Since the crisis started, community leaders we community leaders have told our boys, don't go and attack any community. Don't ever go to attack any community. If you go to attack any community, it's our resolve that you will not survive it. And therefore, the youths of Kente community kept off going on any attack. But that is not to say that they will not defend themselves. So they were now forced to stay around to put up a defense when they have been attacked. And I remember the village was attacked 11 times within 2 months. But they were able to repel the attacks. Of course, when you are very genuine in your heart, God will also help you. Now, if all the communities in southern Taraba would imbibe the same idea, the same tactics of exercising some level of restraints in terms of the crisis, I assure you in no time we'll have peace. We've been talking to quite a lot of people. We have gone around to preach peace. Violence has not been any good answer in any conflict. So for me, then we now build cohesion, peace blocks, and then cohesion amongst ourselves. Once we do that, these things will go.
Wow. Thank you so much again, sir, for your time on the program discussing peaceful coexistence on the program Talking Peace. It's been really insightful and educative listening to you. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
That's the program Talking Peace here on TSBS Jalingo. But again, remember you can listen and watch the entire package on our online platform, www.ctonline.com. If you join us again same time next week for another edition, you will be glad you did. I am Iwe Sekunde Enoch. Bye for now. Hello, join us every Tuesday on the program Talking Peace, where we discuss on how to attain peaceful coexistence and tolerance in our society.
Talking Peace is a production of ZT Communications in partnership with Taraba State Broadcasting Service TSBS Jalingo.
For enquiries and advert placements, please call 0803 454-0469.
Talking Peace is the meeting point. Join us.